What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you once again for tuning in. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to change your cassette off of your wheel. Reasons why you may want to do that is simply because you're going to a place that you're going to need different gearing. Let's say you live in an area that's relatively flat. You're getting ready to take your bike on a cycling vacation to do some hills or some rolling terrain, and you realize that 1123 is not going to cut it. You actually need an 1129 or an 1132. I'm going to show you how to remove the cassette that you currently have on your wheels and how to swap it out to something a little bit different. First thing that we need to talk about, though, are tools that you're going to need. First tool that you're going to need is what's called a lock ring removal tool or a lock ring socket. There's one specifically for wheels that are Shimano compatible and one specifically for wheels that are Campagnolo compatible. So this is the example of the difference between a Shimano hub and a Campagnolo hub. The blue hub on the right is a Campagnolo hub, which will take anywhere from 9-speed all the way up to 12-speed. And the black hub on the left is a Shimano hub, which takes 9 through 10. If you need an 11-speed Shimano hub, you're going to need a different application, which is one of the appealing things to me about Campagnolo hubs. But one of the things that you can see is they're clearly not interchangeable, because the Campagnolo hubs have more of a patterned design, whereas the Shimano hub has more of a symmetrical design with only one of the ridges being slightly thinner than the others. Now, whether you're running Shimano or SRAM, those are compatible. And again, as you can clearly see, Campagnolo has its own unique design. Now, when we take a look at a Shimano lock ring as compared to a Campagnolo lock ring, you're wondering, they look exactly the same. Believe me, they're not. They're shaped the same, but the spacing of their teeth and the size of their teeth are completely different. Therefore, you're going to need a lock ring for Campagnolo compatible wheels and a lock ring for Shimano compatible wheels. Then you're going to need one of these items. This is called a chain whip, and a chain whip is kind of like the old-fashioned way of doing it. The only thing that I'll tell you about chain whips is that a lot of these chain whips have the chain portion is really designed for 8-speed and 9-speed cassettes, where the width of the chain is a little bit wider, and you may have some difficulty getting this to seat properly if you're running an 11 or 12 speed cassette. What I did with mine was I used a chain breaker to remove the old chain links, and I had a 10-speed chain that was just sitting around that was stretched out from over usage. And what I did was I attached this using the chain breaker and a little bit of ingenuity, just to make sure that I can get a little bit more grip when I get this in between the teeth of the cassette, as I said, if I'm using something like an 11 speed or 12 speed cassette. And the last thing that you're going to need is a crescent wrench, or as they say across the waters, an adjustable spanner. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the skewer from the wheel. Obviously, if your wheel is a disc brake with through axles, you'll skip this part. Once you've gotten the skewer off, just simply place the spring as well as the nut on the axle, set it aside just so that we don't lose any of those small pieces. From there, we're gonna make sure that we have the appropriate lock ring removal tool, and it should go right in. There's no need to force this in. Once we're satisfied that it's in, we're gonna grab our tools so that we can begin the removal process. I usually take my time just to make sure that I've got the chain whip on there properly so that I get good grip. The last thing that I want to have is any type of slippage while I'm applying torque, and consequently running the risk of removing skin from my knuckles. Once I'm satisfied that I've got a good bite, I'll place the wheel on the floor. I'll grab the crescent wrench and I place it in a position where I can simultaneously push down on both sides until the lock ring comes loose and is able to be spinned freely. From there, I just remove the lock ring and the cassette should pull straight up. Sometimes cassettes seize on the free hub body just a bit. If they've been on there for a very long time, they start to develop bite marks and grooves where it makes it very difficult to pull them up. If that's the case, just take your time to move it back and forth until you work it free. From there, reassembly of the cassette onto the free hub body is just like putting a puzzle together. Once you get everything lined up properly, follow the proper sequence of cassette teeth, making sure that you're getting them in the proper order with the appropriate spacer between each tooth. Okay, so as we begin to wrap this process up, once you have the cassette assembled, you're going to grab the lock ring removal tool and the lock ring, and you're going to just tighten everything up by hand initially, make sure that there's no play. And after you've satisfied that there's no play and also that you did not cross thread the lock ring, from there you'll grab the crescent wrench and just give it a nice snug tightening. And again, inspect to make sure that there's no play. We do not need the chain whip for this portion because the pawls on the cassette are going to keep it from rotating in the clockwise direction as we apply torque. The last thing that we want to do is we want to inspect to make sure that there's about a 1 millimeter space between the axle of the wheel and the face of the lock ring, to make sure that the face of the lock ring does not make contact with the frame of the bike. And that's it. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Remember, our aim here is to inform, instruct, inspire. Please be blessed.